Warning! This contains spoilers for all of Persona 4 Golden. If you haven't finished the game and wish to not be spoiled, please click away from the video now. You have been warned. One night, a friend of mine was streaming Persona 4 Golden, and, from what I can recall, he was still going through Kanji's dungeon. In fact, he was struggling to finish the boss of said dungeon. As the cutscene played, I heard a familiar voice from one of the characters, Chie.
There they are!
And the first thing I ever said was, Quark? My favorite Zero Skin character? Confused, I quickly looked up the English voice actor for Chie and Quark, and, to my surprise, they were voiced by the same person, Aaron Fitzgerald. In that familiarity, I became interested in the game, especially Chie. While I didn't know who Chie was entirely, from what I saw on the stream, she was brimming with so much energy and excitement, I couldn't wait for when I got to meet her in-game for myself. So, fast forward to when I got a copy of the game. I tried to lay low and not spoil myself too much on the story. As I played, I felt a wave of nostalgia of my high school years. I was reminded of the many times I was often busy dealing with work, spending time with friends, participating in club activities. Those were my golden years, and I began yearning for those moments again. But also came with remembering those moments or the dark thoughts that plagued my mind, which seemed to push away the joy I felt. So, when you, Yosuke, Chie, and Teddy encountered Chie's shadow, the words that it spoke were familiar to me, as if it paralleled my own dark thoughts.
That's right. I'm the one who can't do anything alone. I can't win as a girl, let alone as a person. I'm pathetic. But Yukiko, she depends on me.
It was the first time in a long time that I had become genuinely uncomfortable. How I felt useless. How I wanted people to depend on me. How I had nothing. And in my mind, I kept saying, Stop it! I get it!
So you're just going to turn your back and deny?
Please, stop! I get it!
When the time comes, I'll be the one left standing.
Get away from me!
Right. I'm still you.
I wanted to run away, and I have, trying to deny those thoughts that are a part of me, just like Chie.
You're not me!
I denied my own shadow. In-game, Chie's shadow transformed into its monstrous form. It showed people stacked on top of one another to elevate a woman who whipped those beneath her, demanding them, and likely the party to
I am a shadow, the true self. What do you guys think you're doing? Trying to defend the real me? Then you're gonna pay the price.
I felt that was a similar image to what I saw in myself. A monster. One that I couldn't avert my eyes from. Even as I made my way through the final dungeon of the game, I still vividly remember that scene at the back of my mind.
Are you guys idiots? Why are you protecting her like that? She's nothing but a grubby bitch. Don't make fun of me. You're nothing against me.
After Chie's shadow was defeated,
What's the matter? Got nothing to say anymore?
hearing her reluctance to accept her shadow, just like I had with my own, felt so surreal to me. But thankfully, just like Chie, I had support from people around me too. Because, in the end of it all,
Yeah, I kinda get it now. You are me. A side of me I couldn't forgive, that I tried to ignore. But you still exist. You're a part of me.
only in my case, it was the people around me. Even if I didn't learn anything about myself from the game, I wanted to help Chie achieve her goals. Her goal was to save Yukiko. She hadn't been rescued yet, but with the resolve to express her inner feelings regarding her best friend, Chie pushed herself to continue despite her condition. which caused the group to stop her. In essence, it was to appeal to Chie's will in order to discourage her recklessness and help her utilize the drive she had to save Yukiko.
I'm sorry about before. I shouldn't have rushed in like that by myself.
No worries. We're definitely gonna save Yukiko-san, right?
Right.
With Yukiko's shadow defeated, Chie expressed what she felt and what she saw of Yukiko, that being her envy towards Yukiko, and how her life was seemingly set for her, being the popular Amagi heir. And it's especially prevalent having seen how the guys seemed to like Yukiko more, and saw her more of a girl than Chie, but like everyone else, Chie didn't realize what Yukiko must have felt on that matter. That is, not until she saw Yukiko's shadow, and how Yukiko truly felt about those very things that Chie was so envious about.
I'm so sick of it! To hell with it all!
Yukiko, I'm sorry. I was so self-centered that I never understood what you were going through. I'm your friend, and I'm so sorry. I was always jealous of you, Yukiko. You had everything that I didn't. That jealousy was like a wall, and I was so lonely. I wanted you to need me, but it was me who needed you. I can't do anything right on my own. I've caused so much trouble for Yosuke and the others. If you weren't by my side, I wouldn't know what to do.
Then I remembered what happened to me. I recognized a painful issue about myself. I'm envious. I'm envious of the people around me. What happened to me? Brought to tears from this scene, I remembered a distinct memory from my childhood. When I was a kid, I remembered getting a 90 out of 100 for a math test. Excited, I told my parents, and the first thing they asked me was, "Did someone get a higher mark than you?" It was then that I began to grow envious of others, especially those who I saw as better than me in most aspects. Envy was a new feeling I hadn't truly recognized, until now, as an adult in my early 20s. And while that, among other experiences, did leave a lasting impression on me, I can't entirely blame them, because I believe that they didn't realize how what they were doing affected me. Most of the help I had when it came to dealing with my envy was being told to not get jealous. While this advice is understandable for most, the problem stems from the fact that I was experiencing a far more deeply rooted issue, one that led me down a path of loneliness and despair. To answer my question from earlier, I couldn't recognize my envy until now. That's what happened to me. Though, that begs the question, why didn't I realize it sooner? I found the answer. It was simple. I became nihilistic. For those who don't know what nihilistic means, it means someone who follows nihilism, which according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, nihilism is defined as the following. In my case, I'm specifically referring to the latter part of 1A, which states, a viewpoint that traditional values and beliefs are unfounded, and that existence is senseless and useless. Strange, given that up till now, I was talking about how I liked playing Persona 4 Golden, and how nostalgic it was for me, and how I related to Chie's struggles on a personal level, her envy in particular. My envy was a wall that blocked me from being who I was towards the people who were close to me. So I threw myself into my studies, thinking that maybe I could be better than anyone, or that I could obtain the qualities that my high school friends had. This only further deepened my personal issues, and I still couldn't admit that I was envious of them. You feel the void that I grew to hate. That hatred grew and grew. Eventually, I lost sight of what I originally felt. I tried to influence people to rely on me so that I gained some sense of purpose, as someone to depend on, when, ironically enough, it was me who ended up relying on them to give me a purpose. My friends appreciated and cared for me, supporting me whenever I struggled. We made so many happy memories together. We laughed and cried together. It was only a year, but I didn't want those moments to be superficial. Through Chie's admittance of her envy towards Yukiko, it eerily paralleled so many words that I didn't have the courage to tell myself. In some way, Chie reminded me of who I was before. This game had invoked the nostalgia of my high school years. It nurtured a small desire of reliving those happier times that allowed me to overcome my nihilism for just a brief time. My nihilistic tendencies made me question if my own friendships were a farce because of how I was approaching things, but that small window of reprieve allowed me to hear what I kept ignoring for so many years. It fascinates me how this all happened in such a short span of time, because these bonds that I've made, they're real to me. I want them to be real. I love the people around me. I trust them and cared for them. These feelings are true to me, as well as the negative feelings I bottled up. Loneliness, envy, hatred, and despair. Even my own nihilism. Painful as it was, I was happy. Truth be told, it was like a warm embrace.
I still don't have a clue what my good points are.
It's amazing how this all came from my time playing the first few hours of the game. I'd reminisce about my past to the point where I'd learn about my envy, the turning point being Chie Satonaka, whose struggles resonated so much with me. But I should also be clear on one thing. Chie isn't the only character that had such an effect on me. Rather, I resonated with practically the entire cast, from Ayane's self-esteem issues to Teddy's struggle in finding his own identity. There was always something that I could understand and relate to in some way. That said, out of everyone, I relate to Chie on a much higher level than the rest, even down to her moments of her fear, such as thunder, and insects, like that one time when a grasshopper landed on her back. Jesus. At that moment, I recalled a similar experience during my high school years with a praying mantis. Even her color scheme, primarily green, was highlighted with my favorite color, yellow. A color that I commonly associate with happiness.
It's beautiful.
Her love of meat reminded me of the time when I craved meat dishes, and I would often get them whenever I could, as if I had a bottomless stomach. Though I'm sure Chie's love for me far outweighs mine. I recall another memory of a ski trip of mine once. Thanks to the ski trip event in February, I was reminded of the fun I had back then, something I'd long forgotten about until February in-game. Long story short, I can't experience what Naoto went through. I was nervous at first, but I ended up having so much fun in the end. And how fitting it was that I wore a similar outfit to Chie that day. These are but a glimpse of the many connections I felt towards Chie from the time I spent with her, most of which were from my high school experiences. Memories of what I could have been, and what I wanted to be. Memories that I thought were long gone. They're still there.
Really getting it is totally different. I mean, really finding yourself.
I yearn to relive those moments of my golden years. I've changed so much since then, and when I saw Chie as my high school self, I missed him dearly. I've long since graduated, and had quite some time to self-reflect. I now know what happened to me. Because of that, I found my resolve to be myself again, just like I had been, many years ago. And the catalyst for said change is actually one of Chie's phrases.
Don't think, feel.
It's one of the key phrases that highlights her personality. She's emotionally driven, which is the type of character I connect with the most. Those who act without a second thought, relying on their feelings in the spur of the moment. Though that drive often landed her in trouble with others, especially Yosuke, like with what happened in Yukiko's dungeon.
Yukiko's here. I'm going on ahead!
Hey, wait, don't go alone! Jeez, we better follow her.
And charging Yosuke for Teddy's clothes.
Oh, it's about Teddy's clothes, that's all. We didn't have the money for them, so we charged the rest to you.
Charge? What? You put it on my account? Ah, what the hell, Chie? I never said you could do that!
Oh boy. I came to accept that that's the kind of person Chie is. She may not think things through, given most situations.
Ow!
And in doing so, she may seem inconsiderate of others. I may not exactly condone her actions, but I know she bears no ill will towards those she may inconvenience. I find it natural for friends to do things like that to each other, jokingly of course, much like the phrase, no harm no foul describes. I do believe if she had the time, she'd likely figure out a way to handle certain situations more effectively. Even my own experience, I understand that emotions are quite a driving force, and sometimes it's hard to break away from them. She may not be the brightest at times, but she does what she feels is right in the moment, and I respect that. I've had my own fair share of acting without much forethought, and I often got in trouble because of that. Even when I did something similar, acting without thinking twice, it brings back fond memories. It's like I had some good memories after all, even past my own golden years. Learning more about her through events like the Summer Festival, Christmas, New Year's, and Valentine's Day, I felt as though I was able to reminisce and come to terms with who I yearned to be. As shown in the summer festival, she is very considerate of others, given that she takes her time and doesn't rush things.
Really? I'm so relieved! But I'm still gonna stop talking about meat all the time. Not everybody's as understanding as you.
She's honest with herself on New Year's Day, especially if you're dating her at the time. She recognizes that, even though she and Narukami wouldn't be seeing each other as often once spring came around. However, she does say,
"Because now I realize that the distance between us won't matter. I love you so much after all." What a cheesy line, right?
There's a saying that someone once told me, "Love has no bounds." And they're certainly correct. The days went by, and my time in the game was coming to a close. Some characters even pointed out that there was, in fact, a time limit. Recognizing this, I felt that I had to dedicate my time for the others in those last moments. After all, they meant a lot to me. And of course, I could never forget about the Valentine's Day event. I still remember the excitement I had as I rescued Marie, eagerly awaiting the following day, February 14th, Valentine's Day. It happened a couple of weeks ago, but it still feels like it only happened yesterday, after that amazing scene where Yukiko acts as Chie's wingwoman.
Attention, everyone!
Still gets to me every time. I realized why I really loved Chie. She reminded me of who I was in high school. Energetic, hardworking, tomboyish, and emotional. It turns out that I'm still like that, and it's nice to see that now. Though, that's enough about me gushing over Chie's Valentine's Day event. There's just a few more things I'd like to mention.
I've been trying not to think about it all this time. But I finally feel like I can face reality.
Even after learning so much about myself, I wasn't sure if I'd be okay in the end. I feared the unknown, and what would happen if I ended up screwing up. I constantly had doubts about my future. Would all my development amount to nothing? Is what I often asked myself. But something changed when the group fought Izanami and lost for the first time, with everyone trying to raise Narukami's spirits. Hearing Chie's words of encouragement towards Narukami.
No! Don't leave me! I'm scared. I'm such a stubborn, two-faced coward. But you understood me. That's why I can become as strong as I need to be.
I realized I felt the same. I still get teary-eyed just hearing those words. That sequence made me want to resolve my own issues, just as Chie had with hers. Something I wish I could have done years ago. When she resolved herself towards becoming a cop, I teared up because I'd done the same, in my own way. I resolved myself, aiming high as a software developer. In those moments, I felt as though I was able to see a light in myself again. A small spark of hope that I thought was long gone, drowned out by my darker thoughts. How I feel more than think, the many times I felt envy and grew to suppress the feelings I harbored towards others, how the strength that I have comes from others, and how I failed to recognize that I was just a two-faced coward. As mentioned earlier, I often question if all my work will pay off. I doubt myself and psych myself out because I'm scared of losing people. The thought of not being helpful to them, and maybe even ending up hurting them instead, terrified me. But now, even when I screw up badly, it's the strength of the people around me, from the people that I love and hold dear, that gives me the determination to say, I'll get back up on my feet. I'm sorry for being such an idiot, but I gotta keep going. I want to keep going.
This year will signal a great change in your life.
From just a random sense of familiarity of a character I love from one franchise, to one of the most important characters in my life to another, Chie really has changed me. Every moment I had with her, good and bad, I wouldn't trade them for the world over. She helped me realize who I yearned to be in high school. Before a part of me shifted to something darker, I missed my golden years. I thought they long since passed me. Even if they had, I want to keep changing, no matter how scary things get. I won't be alone. As long as I have the strength of the others alongside me, I know it'll be fine by the end of it all. Yes, I sim for Chie, and will do so for the foreseeable future. She is the kind of person I truly miss being. Because of her, I remembered what happened to me, and I found myself back on what I believe is the right path. I remembered who I was. I remembered what I missed from so long ago, and what I've been denying and avoiding since. Sure, some memories are bad, and some I'd wish would be long forgotten, but that's okay. They happened, and I can see those moments for what they are now. I won't pretend they didn't happen because when I did so, in the past, I ended up digging myself into the same mental pitfalls again and again. I lied to myself when I actually was in deep pain. I don't intend to run away from such memories anymore. I'm truly thankful for being able to talk about this. The cast themselves mean a lot to me, as I've mentioned before, but Chie really did help me open my eyes and remember who I was. And in turn, I was able to see who I am and who I aim to be. So thank you, Chie Satonaka. and thank you so much for watching this video.
Protect me, Tomoe! I'll do it! Ready to go! Is this our chance? My way of thinking has changed a lot over this past year. But I think what changed the most is that I like this town now. If I believe in them and myself, I can always find a way. Let's go! Let me do it! Ready to go! Ha! Wham! Don't think, feel! What do you mean it's just like me, idiot?
Now then, you all stay awesome. P.S. This is not an advertisement for the Chie fan club server. I've only been there for about a couple of weeks by now, but God, I love that place!